The Place Inside with your host, Laurence Galian.
Welcome to The Place Inside. This is your host, Laurence Galian. I have been reading a fantastic book lately. It's entitled Not in His Image, Gnostic Vision, Sacred Ecology, and the Future of Belief. It's written by John Lamb Lash, and he's been doing a book tour lately and appearing on lots of shows like C2C and Unknown Country, so forth. So I want to share with you some of his ideas, which are really rather revolutionary. He mentions that the best investigators, in his opinion, of the ET UFO phenomenon, Jacques Vallée, Keith Thompson, and John Keel, have emphasized its religious aspect, but without allusion to Gnostic materials. He says that John Keel asserts that, quote, the same manifestations that created our religious beliefs created our UFO beliefs. A serious look at the phenomenon would cause a revision in our way of looking at religion, unquote. Keel's remark is eminently sober. Most ET UFO speculation toggles erratically between two impassioned opinions. Either aliens show us the way to our salvation, or they are here to destroy us. Remember in past podcasts how I've urged you to take a middle path, always to take the middle way, especially in a subject such as aliens, EBs, extraterrestrial, and so forth. Now, Gnostics explicitly warned that the archons work through salvationist religion. What is salvationist religion? It's the idea that we need to be saved, that we need a savior, that we need someone to come along and redeem us from our sins, that sort of thinking. So the Gnostics were very much against this sort of concept, and he said that the archons were not here to destroy us, however, but to deviate us from our proper course of evolution, okay? They weren't here to destroy us, but they are here to distract us and to move us away from what we can be, our full potential as human beings. And he says that they do this because they envy us. Archons lack what is called in the Gnostic terminology enoia, which is singular intentionality, and epinoia, which is moral creative imagination. And they want to have this specific endowment of ours, to assimilate it or steal it. This diagnosis of archontic intrusion conforms in many respects to reports of people who have encountered alien entities, especially the Greys and the reptilians. So they want two things from us: singular intentionality and moral creative imagination. They want to steal this from us. Now, veteran investigator Jacques Vallée sees in the ET phenomena a broad mutation of the religious experience of humankind. His warning that the ET UFO enigma hides a, quote, spiritual control system, unquote, comes very close to the Gnostic analysis. After initially assuming benevolence, Vallée concluded something very interesting. He concluded that alien intrusion is sinister and predatory. This is also the Gnostic view. In his book Angels and Aliens, Keith Thompson emphasizes the collective or archetypal interpretation of ETs based on Jungian psychology. In this view, the archons would be trickster-type entities whose effect on us depends on how we quote-unquote play them. John Keel also has stressed the trickster-like aspect of aliens, the way the phenomenon, as Keel calls it, shapeshifts, momentarily conforming to our belief about it, and then, quite suddenly, contradicting what we believe. And isn't this so true, that just when we think we have them pinned down and we understand them, suddenly they take a big leap and they appear to be something else entirely, and not only our experience of them, but those who comment and write about them, like Whitley Strieber, for example, how he goes through all sorts of changes in the way that he views aliens. Recently, I just read something by him where he's saying that aliens are, in effect, us, that they are future manifestations of human beings who are time traveling back to our present time in order to observe us. So they're no more, no less than human time travelers from the future. And this is his latest opinion. This is really shape-shifting, as it says here in John Keel's book. There is the famous coyote tradition in the American Indian belief system. Look into coyote and you will learn more about the trickster figure. It's very, very important, and it goes back many thousands of years. In the end, archontic activity eludes all belief. Now, one of the famous Gnostic books, called the Second Treatise of the Great Set, says that it is, quote, pure senselessness, unquote. In other words, it's just impossible to understand them. But as Valet astutely noted in his book Messengers of Deception, quote, the way to a man's belief is through confusion and absurdity, unquote. Now, archons do exist as independent beings, and it's very interesting that just like the Mayans taught that all the Mayan gods arrived here on Earth and they came from the very center of the galaxy, the same thing was said by the Gnostics, that the Archon and the very famous Sophia, or Sophia as Nash pronounces her name, they all came from the center of the galaxy, including the Eon, another group that came from the center of the galaxy according to the Gnostics. But to see how the Archons operate is to see into the elusive workings of our own mind. Knowing how we are deviated could be the best thing going, because archons are not only outside of us, but they are inside of us. They are in our minds. They are in our brains very often. Now, what do archons like to do? Well, they love to increase our extent of error. They want us to commit bigger and worse errors. They want us to go deeper into our mistakes to the point where we cannot pull ourselves out of these mistakes. They want us to go so far into our errors that we are permanently lost. The presence of the archons in the solar system dangerously widen the margin of human error, thus affecting the way we learn and evolve. At the very least, the archons can be taken for a brilliant parapsychological metaphor that explains how humans can think and act out of scale, inhumanely, in other words, off the scale, so incredibly inhumanly. This is what archons are all about. The self-betrayal of humanity through the Redeemer complex happens, in part at least, because we can think ourselves right out of our own minds and into an alien mindset. The Gnostic seers insisted that archons cannot control or manipulate us unless we give them the power to do so. This happens when we do not optimize. Now here's another Gnostic word, know, which means our endowment of divine intelligence. Our omission is their salvation. Okay, what do I mean by that? Gnostic error theory states three simple interlocking truths. One, humans are creatures who learn by making mistakes. Okay, we know that's true. We make a mistake and we realize this is not something that we want to do again. We put our fingers as little children into a wall socket like I did as a little kid, and I put my fingers, it actually was my fingers, I had a magnet, and attached, I had attached it to something, and so I put the magnet right into the wall socket. The next thing I knew, I was on the other side of the room. All the electricity was out in the house. It completely blew all the electricity, and there was a huge mark on the wall where the explosion from the electrical outlet blackened the wall, and there I was, completely blown to the other side of the room. And well, that certainly taught me my lesson, which is number one, humans are creatures who learn by making mistakes. Number two, to learn from our mistakes, we must detect and correct them. Hence, our collaborative role in Gaian evolution. Gaian, or Gaia, is another word for Mother Earth. It is the concept that Mother Earth, our planet, is sentient, and we are here to help Mother Earth in her evolution, and she is here to help us in our evolution. It is a collaborative role. But in order to learn from our mistakes, we must detect and correct them. Now, for me, with my little magnet being blown across the room, it wasn't very hard for me to detect my mistake. But in other aspects of our lives, it is not always so easy for us to realize that we've made a mistake, and it is oh so very important for us as human beings to detect and then correct our mistakes. And so finally we come to number three, the last one. When we fail to detect and correct our mistakes, they can extrapolate wildly and spin us beyond human limits. Well, just take one look at the Nazis or any group of tyrants and dictators. These people have gone way beyond anything that is human. They have become inhuman monsters. Often people say that they become animals, but this is an insult to animals, because animals are born with an innate innocence. Animals are innocent, and humans are not innocent. So actually humans can behave much, much more horribly than any animal could ever behave. So the archons intrude at just that point when we let our errors go uncorrected, and the archons lend their deviant force to what is already going off course, taking us with them in a wayward spiral. So you see what's happening. We're not noticing our mistakes, and so that is when the archons step in, and they push us further. They give us a little shove, a little kick, so that we move even further into our mistake, so that our mistake becomes even worse, even more horrible. If we think, for instance, some negative thoughts about a group of people, they will jump on our backs, they will jump into our brains and start telling us even worse things about these people, so that we hate them even more, and that it increases our hatred for these people to the degree that we then start acting absolutely as lunatics, and maybe even begin to commit physical violence against this group of people. You see how the archons can amp up our negativity, our mistakes, our errors. Archons really do exist in their own realm as inorganic extraterrestrial form, but also as programs in our minds. And this salvationism, this idea that we need some man, some God-man to come and save us from original sin or from our fundamental evilness, it's an ideological virus spread by an alien species and enacted by humans who fall under their subterfuge. refuge. Now, this is the brilliant thoughts and thinkings of John Lamb Lash, and I really urge you to go out and buy his book. It's entitled Not in His Image. I told you that the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered the very same year that crash happened in Roswell, New Mexico. So that makes these Dead Sea Scrolls very, very important. Just the other day I was in Texas and I walked into a Christian bookstore because I wanted to look at their Bible. I wanted to see if any of the new Bibles include the Gnostic Gospels, the books found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're also referred to as the Nag Hammadi texts. And really, to my surprise, frankly, I did not find a single Bible out of probably 100 Bibles with any of these texts in them. Now, we know that in these texts are the words of the great master, the great prophet Jesus, okay? His words that were hidden by the Catholic Church, that were hidden, okay, that were repressed by the Catholic Church. And wouldn't you think that Christians would want to know words said by Jesus Christ that were repressed and hidden by the Catholic Church? Well, I certainly did, but when I walked the aisles of this Christian bookstore, I did not see a single book devoted to this subject. Well, let me quote from one of these repressed Gospels. It's the Gospel of Philip, in which Jesus says, "Ignorance is the mother of all evil." And he goes on to say, "So long as the root of wickedness is hidden, it is strong. But when it is recognized, it is dissolved. When it is revealed, it perishes. As for ourselves, let us each dig down after the root of evil, which is within each of us, and produces its root in our hearts. It masters us. We are its slaves. It takes us captives to make us do what we do not want, and what we do want, we do not do. It is powerful because we have not recognized it." These are the hidden words of Jesus Christ that were rediscovered the very same year that the saucer crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. In another book, Jesus says, "Anyone who does not know how fire came into existence will be burned by it because he does not know the root of it." So there's a little example of some of the wisdom that is there but has been hidden. Yes, we've talked about that also, how the Catholic Church has deliberately repressed and hidden portions of these Dead Sea Scrolls. And it is very possible, unless someone launches an attack on the Vatican, that we will never read these words of Jesus. So the root of evil is basically human error. That's what the Gnostics were telling us. The Gnostics who said that their teachers came from the center of the galaxy. They said that the root of evil is the mind mistaking itself. To defeat evil, we must unmask it by seeing its origin in the erring operations of our own minds. And remember, we are here as the Metaphysical Freedom Fighters. I am here to teach you techniques to fight back against the evil extraterrestrial, and this book is all about that, and one of the best ways to fight back. I just read to you, let me share this with you again. To defeat evil, we must unmask it by seeing its origin, okay? Where is its origin? Its origin is in the erring operations. In other words, making mistakes of our own minds. Now, there are many of you who very much want to meet an alien being, an EB, or actually see a UFO, but I just want to read you a little quote by a man named Yamamoto Tsunetomo, and it's short, but I think you'll find it interesting. There was once a man in China who liked pictures of dragons. His clothing and his furniture were therefore accordingly adorned with dragons. He had pictures of dragons all over. This deep affection for their kind was brought to the attention of the Dragon Lord, who one day they sent a real dragon to stand outside the man's window. It is said that he promptly died of fright. So, as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. So, when we were last speaking, we were talking about a secret teaching called Nigung, Mopai Nigung, and this is the secret teachings of the warrior sages. There is a book called Nigung, Nei, second word Kung, and the author is Costa Danaos, that's Kosta, last name D as in David, A, N is as in Norman, A-O, S as in Sam. Very good book. And he talks about how Nigung training operates on the molecular level and actually modifies the DNA of the trainee. Now, Nigung works extensively with the breath, at least at the very beginning, and many systems work with the breath, but Nigung works extensively with the breath, and especially with what is known as the yin and the yang, also pronounced here as Jin and Jang. The method followed by the Mopai is millennia old. Okay, it's not something that was just invented 100 years ago as some martial arts techniques were, but this is thousands of years old and very effective. You begin by filling up the body's energy warehouse with solar energy, sun energy. In Chinese, they call it Yang Qi. This warehouse, also called the Dantian, remember when I mentioned this elixir field, the Dantian, which is around the stomach area, it is actually exactly located 4 fingers below the navel, and it is also called the hara in Japanese. Those of you who have studied Aikido are familiar with this term hara. So the Dantian is located about 4 fingers below the navel, but then it extends in concentric circles outward from that point. Okay, you must keep that in mind. It's not just a tiny point 4 fingers below the navel, but it extends in spiraling shapes and figures from that point. Okay, it spirals out from that point 4 inches, 4 fingers below the navel. If you imagine this energy center as a sphere, you could assume that it would be empty at level 0. Okay, they start with level 0. So you imagine it as empty at level 0 and full of yang energy at the end of level 1. So how do we start filling up our Dantian or hara with this solar or yang energy? There are a variety of ways. One way is to do it through meditation. You must be in actual meditation, a condition similar to the borderline between sleep and waking, for 81 hours in order to fill the Dantian. When the typical practitioner attempts meditation, he actually achieves it only for 3 minutes during every hour of sitting. Therefore, completing level 1 can require 1,620 hours of sitting in a meditative posture. Now you can realize how difficult this process of Mopai Nigung is. At an hour a day, it would take the average man 4.5 years to conclude this stage of training. But I am going to teach you a way of breathing that will fill up the Dantian. It is called alternate nostril breathing, and this comes from a technique called Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra, N-I-D-R-A, alternate nostril breathing. So you want to start by inhaling with your right nostril, and just inhale in your right nostril and then exhale in your left out of your left nostril. Then inhale from your left nostril and exhale out of your right nostril. You want to keep this process going. Again, inhale through the right nostril, exhale out of the left nostril. Inhale through the left nostril, exhale out of the right nostril. Okay, so I want you to practice that for a while until you get that rhythm going and you can actually feel the inhalation and the exhalation. I do not want you to do anything with your fingers. In many techniques of pranayama, this is considered a form of pranayama yoga, they actually will use the fingers to be holding the nostrils. But I do not want you to be using your fingers. You are purely to be inhaling and exhaling on your own without touching your nostrils. So you inhale through your right nostril, exhale through your left, inhale through your left, and exhale through your right. Again, inhale through your right, exhale through your left, inhale through your left, and exhale through your right. And keep this process up until you've got that pattern very secure and comfortable. Now, after you've got this down, what I want you to do is when you inhale with your right nostril, I want you to count the number 1. So as you inhale with your right nostril, you say to yourself silently 1. And as you exhale through your left nostril, again say the number 1. Now, as you inhale through your left nostril, you say the number 2. And then as you exhale through the right nostril, again say the number 2. Now we're going through the third cycle. So as you inhale through your right nostril, you silently say to yourself the number 3. And as you exhale through the left nostril, you say the number 3. Again. Now these inhalations and exhalations should be full, okay? As you inhale fully. As you exhale fully. But I don't want you to do any other strange technique or process along with it. It is just a full inhalation through the right nostril and a full exhalation through the left nostril. Then a full inhalation through the left nostril and a full exhalation through the right nostril. And again, I want you to count. Now, one last thing. I want you, when you reach every cycle of 5. So when you get to the fifth inhalation, I want you to do that with both nostrils. So when you finish exhaling on 4, then I want you to inhale with both nostrils on 5 and exhale with both nostrils on 5. So 5 is both an inhalation and an exhalation. Then with 6, go right back to the alternate nostril breathing. So again with 6, you inhale with your right nostril, and again say 6 as you exhale through your left nostril. Continue that through the next cycle of 5. So you'll go to 6, 7, 8, 9. But when you get to 10, okay, which is the next cycle of 5, again with 10, that is a full inhalation with both nostrils, and again you exhale on 10 with both nostrils. So with 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and so on. These are inhalations and exhalations with both nostrils. All the other numbers will be alternate nostril breathing. And you must do this. This is a very important point of alternate nostril breathing. If you make a mistake, you must go back to the beginning, okay? This is the way the exercise operates. So for instance, if you're up to 13 and you make some mistake, you breathe through the wrong nostril, go back to 1, all right? Nobody is testing you on this. This is not anything having to do with good or bad. It is simply learning alternative nostril breathing and yoga nidra. It is a way to fill up your dantian without having to go through thousands of hours of meditation. But please, if you make a mistake, go back to the beginning. And you can do this for as long as you like. I usually like to get up to about 70 inhalations and exhalations, and then I will stop, and then later in the day I will do this. And you can do this sitting up, laying down, driving a car, in any position whatsoever you wish, as long as you can concentrate on the inhalation, exhalation, and the counting. So this concludes our transmission for tonight, and we will be in contact soon.